Thank you, Nikki, for the introduction. I'm super excited to be here today to talk to you about one of a topic that I am super passionate about, not just from being in the human resources world, but just for my own success and well-being in the workplace. We know there are some challenges that come with one being a woman in the workplace, but also being able to say no is typically frowned upon in a lot of areas, and it can be for men or women that there's certain perspectives that come with that. And of course, I myself, I'm a person that says yes a lot, even when I don't want to. And I learned through my career that's really not helping me at all. So I'm excited to go over this. I know Nikki did gave me a little bit of an introduction, but I will just tell you a little bit more about myself. So my name is Tara Hirschi. I'm an HR manager. I started as an HR BP at MarketStar. I originally started here in 2016. I was on a sales team. I went through all the notions of being in sales. I was a part of a RIF. I then joined a more seasoned team, did really well on that before moving out of Utah for fun. I'm a very spontaneous person who will move anywhere. Came back to Utah, went into onboarding, did a little bit of recruiting for MarketStar. So again, returned again to MarketStar before I was offered to move into a career path, which was terrifying. Um, Interesting enough, it was a no boundaries thing. I did say, okay, I'll do it. I didn't know what I was going into. Probably should have reviewed it a little bit more, but ended up falling in love with what I was doing, which was admin work for HR at another company where I got to work with Nikki at. Um, and then came back here after some trials and errors. The job I had prior to this, I had to set a lot of boundaries, which those boundaries ended up leading to me for the first time in my whole career, quitting a job on site because those boundaries weren't respected. So as we go through the presentation, I'll throw in some more examples of just how things have panned out or happened to me. If you have questions, please feel free to come off mute or raise your hand. Also, I want to make this as kind of fun and relaxing as possible. So I want to utilize the reactions tab as much as possible. So my first question to everybody is, who struggles with setting boundaries in the workplace? Who finds it the hardest? Quite a few of us. There's a lot of us that are going to raise our hands because I know I do. I consecutively do it. Who tends to overwork themselves and say yes to everything and then sit there and go, why did I do this? Yeah. I figured that would be one that rose a lot of hands and threw up a lot of reactions. We all tend to do it. So, what is setting boundaries at work? The definition for it is it's the limits that we set to protect our time, our energy, and most importantly, our well-being. Our well-being gets trashed and slashed through all of our workloads. And why is it important? It prevents the burnout. We all know that the burnout comes and it comes in different stages at different times. We see it around the holidays when we're the most busiest trying to balance our lives at home. I don't know if it's for anybody else, but for me, it starts at about this time. Every single month from here until the end of the year, we have some type of birthday or family event that happens, usually happens at my house. Um, it's hard to manage and juggle that with the full workload. It improves your relationships. It improves your relationships with your leadership, with your employees, with yourself, with your friends, your family, and enhances productivity. I am way more productive when I can see my schedule, lay it out, be clear with what I'm doing every single day. And it reduces the burden of the stress. Stress is everywhere. And the last thing that we want is you to have stress at home, you're going to have stress at work, then you're going to go back home, you're going to have stress there. So it's super important to remember that those four functions are not the only things that setting boundaries does, but it helps. It really does help. Who struggles from at least one of those four things? Few of us. I mean, I think we all can say consistently that we struggle with finding productivity. We struggle in our relationships. There may be some people in this room right now that are feeling the burnout. I know there are some times that I feel it right away. So I figure that much. Okay, we can go to the next slide. All right, so common challenges when you're setting your boundaries. So the biggest one that I see and that I experience the most is the fear of being unhelpful or difficult. I, again, am a people pleaser. I never want to be seen as somebody that cannot help, that cannot be there, is not reliant. I've heard that before in my career. You get that sense and that feeling that the leadership or your client or your employees won't come to you for future projects. And then you don't want to be seen as that person. The pressure to always be available. My schedule is not always available, but I know for a fact that myself will break my own boundary rules and I will move things around on my schedule and I will cancel a meeting here. It's all that's doing is just taking that work and putting it somewhere else and adding that stress to another day. It blurs the lines between personal and professional life. So a lot of friends work with us. A lot of family members work with us. If we can't set our boundaries in our professional life, it's really going to be hard for us to set them in personal life. And so if we can navigate how we do it in our personal lives, where we spend a majority of our time, then when it comes to setting boundaries in our personal life, it makes it so much easier. And the difficulty is saying no. That is the hardest thing. We always are like, we can't, we don't have the bandwidth or the ability to do it. Never say those things because then it questions your productivity. It questions whether or not you have a clear schedule. There's so many questions that come with when you say, I don't have the ability or bandwidth to do something. They'll start questioning whether or not you're organized or, what your day-to-day looks like. And I always say, never say, I don't have the time. Because the first thing they're going to do is they're going to try to find the time for you. They're going to immediately go and look for your schedule. Yeah, you may not have the time, but there's other words that you can utilize, other ways that you can say, I'm not available at this time, but I have time here. And we'll go over some of that, how to say those things. All right, next slide. All right, so setting boundaries with your coworkers and your friends. Manage your interruptions. I am a chatty person. I work from home. If I'm in the office, I'm talking to everybody. I am not getting anything done. You should just clear my calendar right then and there. I have to set my focus times. I have some focus hours. I communicate them out to my team. I communicate them out to anybody that I'm meeting with, and I try to stay strong and hold strong to those focus hours. Um, Work with your leadership, work with your manager, say, hey, are there some times on my calendar that I can put some blocks so that I can catch up? Most of us do have some blocks on their calendars, but you have to do that. You've got to set those focus hours and that focus time. If it comes down to it, use a do not disturb. Use the do not disturb tool. Communicate out to your team. You're going on do not disturb. You are available if there is an emergency or a crisis, but utilize that time. Utilize the do not disturb. That's why it's there. It helps you with those distractions. Handling excessive requests. So prioritize your workload before agreeing to help. It's fine to take on something that comes to you last minute. The best way to do that is just saying, letting whoever's bringing it to you know that you're willing to assist, but you need to check your calendar. You need to check out what your workload looks like, and you'll get right back to them. Ask them what it looks like for a time frame. Offer alternate solutions instead of always saying yes. Sometimes it's okay to say, I would be happy to assist on this project. Is there somebody else that can run it full tilt, full steam? You can offer assistance to it, something that doesn't require as much time, maybe showing the individual where they can find that project. That can be a little bit difficult, but just know, don't put yourself into stress for somebody else's last minute need. Dealing with the gossip and negativity. Again, we work with our friends, our coworkers become our friends. Your work becomes your second family. We spend a majority of our time here. It is common for you to become friends with the people that you work with. However, those people can become your distractions. They can prevent you from meeting expectations at your own job. And you don't want somebody else to be the reason for your failure. Never. You never want that to happen. And so you'll want to do your best to redirect those conversations to a productive topic. If you find that they're at your desk and they're having this conversation with you and you're like, oh, this is not really productive, but I do have a question about work, try to redirect it, go back to that so that you are learning something from that conversation. That isn't just your kind of common gossip that can be talked about in the break room in 20 minutes on your lunch break. Um, Politely disengage from any toxic conversations. Those are the biggest distractions. When you hear the gossip and we have a lot of water cooler talk that happens across all of the organizations anywhere. It's common. Again, we're with our work people just as much as we are with our family. And you wanted to get yourself away from those because all day, what you're going to be thinking about is that conversation that had, or maybe it's going to start a problem with somebody else and they're going to then bring that conversation to you. And then it just becomes this circle of misinformation or toxic information or just not useful information that is going to distract you from your day to day. It is very, very easy to get caught up in that. I've done it myself. I've been caught up in the conversations and that's all I can think about. And I go back to that instead of working on something I should be working on. Try to limit those and avoid that as much as possible. And if you can't, seek your leadership for help and assistance in being able to get out of that situation. And then handling overdependency. All right. I'll be the first to admit I am an overdependent person. I ask a lot of questions. I come in hot with spreadsheets, notes. I am very overdependent, but I will tell you that I do it in a way that it helps me for later on. I can have a sheet of paper and say, I don't need to go to that person anymore. I now have a laundry list of things that are answering questions that I have, notes, whatever it may be. So, support. Don't let it affect your performance. So, when you're becoming overdependent and you need the help and the assistant, don't let it affect you when it comes to your performance. Don't only rely on going to somebody else and asking them for all of the questions and all the answers. Go to them one time, write it down, put it on a Word doc and stick it on your computer. And I call it my helpful folder. It's literally notes that I find helpful and you can just Control F, search it, find it. Super simple to do. And then set expectations for when you're available. So when yourself becomes the overdependent person, so when you become the person that everybody comes to you, again, those focus hours, the blocks on your calendar. I think I saw somebody say that they have working times. Those can become times when somebody can come to you and ask you those questions. If you get a chat that says, "Hey, do you have a moment to speak to me?" Direct them to a time block that you have that you know that you yourself will be available, that you can actually openly have that conversation with them without any of those distractions. So you can also be the overdependent person, but you can also be the person that everybody is dependent on. All right, setting boundaries while you're still being successful. Again, we're setting these boundaries so that we can be successful. So it is very important to determine how you do that. Because I could sit here for 30 minutes and say, it's this simple, you can do it. It's really not. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes failure. But at some point it'll click and you will realize 6 months down the road that it happened. Maybe it happened in December and you didn't even recognize it. Your success levels will go up, but you need to know how that you can attempt to make this trial. So communicate your boundaries clearly. I will stress so much on the communication point of it. Communication is hard for everybody, but be direct and be professional. We have simple, systems that we can utilize like Copilot that you can type in and say, I can't take on this project. How do I tell my manager that I have XYZ happening and I am not able to do this? Utilize the systems that we have. Sit down and have that conversation with your manager. And most importantly, use the word I need uninterrupted time instead of saying I'm not going to do it or I can't do it. Be explanative when you do it. Explain why you can't do it. Come in with the facts. That's the one thing. Just come in with the facts as to why you can't do it. Being consistent and assertive. Enforce your boundaries consistently. So there are times where you may have to break that. It happens that the 5 a.m. alarm goes off, but be consistent with it. If you have to break it, say, I understand that I need to work on this project. What's my timeline? What do I need to get done in that time frame? And can this wait? I will say, if it is not an emergency that cannot be handled and you ask those questions, what my timeline is, can it wait until the morning? Do not take on a project after your working hours. Your working hours are your working hours. That is when you need to be here. That doesn't mean that if you're on a call with like a client or an advertiser or an employee, you just hang up. Don't do that. Please don't do that. But it means if you are walking out the door and your manager says, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes to stop and help me with this project?" Kindly pull up your calendar and say, "Hey, I have a working hour or I have time first thing tomorrow morning. I'd be glad to help you with this project and offer you my expertise on what it is that you need." Also recommend them do the same. There are people out there that won't even recognize that they themselves are doing it, or they themselves are being that person that doesn't have the boundaries. They may think they do, but they don't. And you offer it to them, say, "Hey, how about tomorrow today we pause this. Tomorrow we set up a time, 15, 20 minutes in the morning. We go over this presentation. We get you what you need so that you can be successful." Um, Enforcing it, stand strong and firm without any guilt. Do not feel guilty for setting the boundaries. If you feel guilty, sit down, put it in to any of them. I would say Copilot's the best, but put it into Copilot. Write down why you feel guilty and see what key triggers are there that are making you feel guilty. And then determine how you can fix those things. But never feel guilty and then turn around and say, "I will just go ahead and do it," because you feel guilty over it. It's going to be that little pit. It's going to be that little burden in our stomachs, but never do the project or do the thing that you didn't want to do because you feel guilty about it. Be mindful of what you're setting your boundaries on. This should not prevent you from doing your job. Again, don't hang up the phone if you're on with an advertiser. Don't leave a meeting if it's going over 5 minutes. But do be clear with your leadership. Even the next time, say, "Hey, I noticed that a lot of our meetings at the end of the day are going over. Is there a way that we can adjust our meeting time to reflect that?" So maybe moving our meeting to start 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier, or setting a schedule so that our meetings are productive and we don't have the chitter chatter and then we're going over on our time when it comes to talking to the most important stuff. And then leveraging your boundaries for productivity. Time blocking for deep work. Again, cannot stress that enough. Work with your leadership on what's acceptable, what is okay. Make sure they understand why it's there so that they're not questioning what your calendar is. Being super open about it will help people understand that it's not that you don't want to be available. It's just that you are making sure that you are available for other instances, things that are coming up, and doing your work. And then prioritizing high impact tasks. So if you get something that comes through and there are maybe some lesser important things that you can move or bump, put that higher one at the beginning because it may take up the most time of your day, and then work on that. And if you can, while you're working on it, you need a little bit of a break or a distraction because your mind can't handle it anymore, move up a smaller task that you had bumped before. I have a really cool desk that is a whiteboard, and it is constantly filled with notes, tasks, things I need to do. Copilot will actually create for you as well a list of things that you need to do. If you pop it in there, it'll tell you how much time you need to spend to work on that. There's so many great functions that you can use with AI right now that can help you build your schedule. Okay, next slide. And then how to communicate. So again, communication's key. Use positive language instead of "I can't." Say, I'm happy to assist after a set time. Say it's 3 o'clock because that's when your next working hour is. Say, "I'm happy to assist at 3 p.m. Does that work for you?" If it doesn't, say, "Great, I have these working hours the next day." Leave it up to them to determine if it's going to work for them, but don't leave it up to you if it's going to work for you. You tell them clearly what time you're available and what time you can meet and help and give them that undivided attention. Be firm but respectful. That is a big thing too. Make sure that you are respecting the individual that you are talking to. I put in some instances that you can use. So, you can advise to somebody, "At this time, my only availability is at 3 p.m. This is when I can give you my undivided attention." What is the urgency behind the need to meet at this moment? I do have availability on my calendar. Please check out my calendar and let me know. If they're like, "Oh, it's not urgent now," I'll just say, "Great, I have tomorrow morning that we can go ahead and meet." Try and not take your right then and there time frames to help something that is not urgent. That doesn't need to be done right away. When it comes to your friend, they come over to your desk and they're sitting there, and I know I'm guilty of this. You go over to somebody's desk and you're sitting there and they're hammering away at their computer, they're typing away and they're super busy, and you're just like, I want to talk about my weekend because it was pretty cool. When that happens to you, it is okay for you to kindly say, hey, let's chat in the break room at lunch. I've got this project that I need to work on and I really need to stay true to my schedule. Can we move this conversation to a more appropriate time, like lunchtime? Maybe we can go on a walk later. It's okay to do that. It's okay to tell somebody, hey, like, hold on, let's pause. Let's have this conversation when it is deemed appropriate, which would be sometime when I'm not really concentrated, because it is so hard when you are concentrated on something and then all of a sudden you're distracted and then you go back to it and you're like, all I can think about is that burger that she was talking about all weekend. Like, that's me. That is 100% me. I cannot get distracted. Um, and then a bigger one is my abilities to complete this task may be challenged with my workload. So we all know what that means. That's the, I don't want to do it. I can't do it. I physically cannot do it. My calendar doesn't allow it. My bandwidth doesn't allow it. My mental health doesn't allow it. So the nicest way that you can tell somebody is that your abilities to complete this task may be challenging due to your workload. Now, this is where it comes in with a solution. Always come in with that solution. Is there an alternate way to complete this task? Can somebody assist me? Is there somebody else that may have better knowledge and can complete this faster that I can partner with? Let the manager tell you, or let the leader tell you, or the employee tell you what they need. If they're like, sure, yeah, Carol over here can help you, great. Say, all right, do you mind setting up that meeting with Carol so that we can partner? Or do you mind reaching out to Carol and asking that she set up this meeting with me so that I can continue on my tasks to try to free up some of that space to be able to fully support her during this project? Being very clear with an expectation and a timeline really sets that precedence. And the bonus part is it makes you stronger. It makes you look like you are more successful because you can lay out your day, you can tell them what they need to be, and it puts that sternness in your voice that may come as a shock to some, but comes with a lot more respect. Um, Set expectations early. The earlier you establish these boundaries, the easier it's going to be. Don't take on a project and then be like, I really can't do this. Set those expectations significantly earlier. And if you can't do it, say it right then and there. Pull up your calendar, tell them what you need to be able to do it. Okay, next slide. All right, handling pushback. That's a huge thing that can happen so often. If somebody ignores your boundaries, we've all been there. We've all set that time. We've all had somebody that ignored it. Politely remind them. Just say, hey, we've talked about this before in the past. This is what my availability is. I'm going to stay strong with that and stick to that. Reinforcing those late night emails, same thing. My working hours are from this time to this time. I can happily respond back to that email first thing in the morning at my most earliest convenience. We all want to use that statement. We all hear other people saying it. We're like, oh, that's freaking awesome that person say that. You do it. You start saying it now. You start telling people that you are happy to respond to their email or happily get back to them at your most earliest convenience. It is okay. You are not being a person that is not being helpful. That is something that I think we ingrain in our own minds, that we aren't being helpful, but in reality we are, because we are giving them, again, a timeline of when we can respond back to them, because that is the biggest thing. Everybody wants a timeline. So if we're setting it clear with them, they will know. Again, the big word, the guilty word. Do not feel guilty for saying that. Do not feel guilty for prioritizing your well-being and your work. If you can do your best work when it is structured and laid out, then do that for you. Not for anybody else, do that for you. Because the success and the respect and that guiltiness, they will all come and they will all go, but you yourself will continue to feel good about yourself and your workload and your production. It's gonna get weird. Let's be honest. It's gonna feel weird. You're gonna be like, oh, my stomach hurts. I need to go for a walk. I think I'm having a heart attack. It's okay. You're gonna feel weird when you first start doing it. But I don't even recognize that sometimes when I do it, that I'm doing it, because it becomes so natural at some point that you don't even know that it's happening. And all of a sudden your schedule's good and you're more comfortable at work. You wake up on Monday and you're not like, oh God, it's freaking Monday. You wake up feeling good about it. You wake up feeling good about going to work. Hey, next slide. But again, it's going to get weird. It's going to get real weird. All right, so your key takeaways. So I've got a minute left, so I'm going to breeze through this. I told Nikki, I told everybody that I could talk through a whole 30 minutes, no problem, over something I am passionate about. So boundaries, protect your time, your health, and your mental health, your energy, protects everything. You do not want to get to a breaking point at your career, ever in your career. You never want to get to a breaking point, because at that point, then you know that you are not being successful. Don't get there. Communication, always communicate. That's all anybody is looking for. They're looking for you to communicate. They're looking for a time frame. Speak with your manager, get with your manager on your abilities, be consistent with them, communicate them. Setting your boundaries doesn't mean that you're not being helpful. Remember that through and through. Put a sticky note on your desk that says that I am being helpful when I set boundaries. That way, with every time that you have to do it, you can remind yourself with that sticky note that you are still being helpful. May not feel like you are, but you are. Trust me. And then balance boundaries with the flexibility when needed. So again, it may come up a time where you can't do it, but that's okay. It happens. You will go back, you will realign your schedule, you will look at your schedule, but don't say yes right away. Look at your schedule first, and if it can be reworked into your schedule, then do it. Give them a time frame. Say, hey, give me a couple of hours while I look over my schedule. I will let you know if I have the ability to be able to do this, and I will get right back to you. And do it. Hold strong to that too. Don't promise and underdeliver ever. Okay, that's all I have for you. So again, it's going to get weird, but remember, it is for your well-being, it is for your mental health, and it is for you and your leadership to be successful. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
all of you.